Hi, my name is Anna Margarita Boy from BSBA-HRDM 4A. My topic is all about developing HR strategies. The following six-step approach is proposed by Gratton 2000. Build the guiding coalition, involve people from all parts of the business. It is the stage at which you assemble a group with enough power to lead the change and encourage them to work as a team. Image the future. Create a shared version of areas of strategic importance, covering a range of art movements, filmmaker. Understand current capabilities and identify the gap. Establish where the organization is now and the gap between aspiration for the future and the reality of the present. Gap is pra- process that compares actual performance or results with what was expected or desired. Cre- Create a map of the system. Ensure that the part that can be built into a meaningful whole. Design, style, and edit maps, real-time location, data management service. Model the dynamic of the system. Ensure that the dynamic nature of the future is taken into account. It is used to describe and predict the interaction over time between multiple components of a phenomenon that are viewed as a system. Bridge into action. Agree the board teams for action and the specific issue relate to those teams. Develop guiding principles, involve the manager, and create cross-functional teams to identify goals and performance indicators. Let's proceed to a methodology for formulating HR strategies was developed by Dreyer and Holder 1988 as follow. Assess feasibility. From an HR point of view, feasibility depends on whether the number and types of key people required to make an proposal succeed can be obtained on a timely basis and at a reasonable cost, and whether the behavioral expectations assumed by the strategy are realistic. Example, retention rate and productivity level. Determine desirability. Examine the implication of strategy in terms of sacrosanct HR policies. Example, a strategy of rapid retention would have to be called into question by a company with a full employment policy. Determine goals. These indicate the main issue to be worked on, and they derive primarily from the content of the business strategy. For example, a strategy to become a lower cost producer would require the reduction of labor costs. This is return translate into two types of HR goals: higher performance standard contribution and reduce headcounts composition. Describe means of achieving goals. The general rule is that the closer the external and internal fit, the better the strategy consistent with the need to adapt flexibly to change. External fit refers to degree of consistency between HR goals on the one hand and the exigencies of the underlying business strategy and relevant environmental conditions on the other. Internal fit measure the extent to which HR means follow from the HR goals and other relevant environmental conditions, as well as the degree of coherency or synergy among the various HR means. Achieving vertical fit, integrating business and HR strategies. Wright and Snail, 1998, suggests that seeking fit requires knowledge of the skills and behavioral necessary to implement the strategy, knowledge of the HRM practice necessary to elicit those skills and behaviors, and the ability to quick implement the desired system of HRM practices. When considering how to integrate business and HR strategies, it should be remembered that business and HRE should influence each other and in turn influence corporate and business unit strategies. It is also necessary to note that in establishing this link account must be taken of the fact that strategy for change have also to be integrated with change in the external and internal environments. Let's proceed to achieving horizontal integration. Bundling horizontal integration or fit is achieved when the various HR strategies cohere and are mutually supporting. This can be attained by the process of bundling as described in Chapter 3. Bundling is carried out by first identifying appropriate HR practice, second, assessing how the item in the bundle can be linked together so that they become mutually reinforcing and therefore coherent, which may mean identifying integration process, and finally, drawing up programs for the development of these practices, paying particular attention to the links between them. And the next one is integrative processes. The use of high performance, high involvement, or high commitment system as described earlier in this chapter is an integrating process. The essence of these systems is that they each consist of a set of complementary work practice that are developed and maintained as a whole. Within this system, and as distinct approach to frequency use integrating processes are performs management and the use of competencies. Settings out the strategies. There is no standard model of how an HR strategy should be set out. It all depends on the circumstance of the organization. The following are the typical areas that may be covered in a written strategy. One is basis, two content, three rational. This is the example of performance management as an integrating force. Performance management, performance improvement, commitment, employee development, motivation, rewards, and use of competencies as an integrating force. Use of competencies, development, recruitment, and rewards. For implementation and cost and benefits analysis. Implementing HR strategies. The term strategic HRM has been devalued in some quarters, sometimes to mean no more than a few generalized ideas about HR policies, and at other times to describe short-term plan. For example, to increase the retention rate of graduates, it must be emphasized that HR strategies are not just programs, policies, or plans concerning HR issue that the HR department happen to feel are important. Barrier to the implementation of HR strategy. Each of the factors listed by Gratton et al. Can create barriers to the successful implementation of HR strategies. Other major barriers include failure to understand the strategic needs of the business, inadequate assessment of the environmental and cultural factors that affects the content of the strategies, and the development of ill-conceived and irrelevant initiatives, possibly because they are current fad or because there has been an ill-digested analysis of best practices that does not fit to the organization's requirements. Overcoming the barriers. Conduct a rigorous preliminary analysis of needs and requirements, formulate the strategy, and list support for the strategy, assess barrier, prepare action plans, project, manage implementation, and follow up and evaluate process so that remedial action can be taken as necessary. That's all. Thank you.